Hi, I'm Kayla, and today I'm going to be telling you about homeostatic mechanisms, what they are, how they function in the body, and some examples, as well as telling you about negative and positive feedback loops. So a homeostatic mechanism is a way that the body keeps everything at the level that it's supposed to be at. So there's levels for everything, and when something goes wrong, say it goes up, there's sensors throughout the body that receive that information, and they send it off to whatever part of your body can fix it. Sometimes that's your brain, sometimes that's organs, sometimes it's chemicals that get released. So say it's the brain would then send a signal back to your body with how to fix it. So a great way to illustrate this is with examples. So we're going to talk about temperature. So say that you go for a run on a hot day. Your temperature is supposed to be 98.6. That's where your body, that's the level that it feels comfortable at. When you go for a run, temperature is going to go up. So your temperature goes up, and then your body, the signals and the sensors, they say, oh, it's too high, we need to fix that. So it sends off a signal, and in this case, it goes to the brain. So the brain gets that signal and says, uh-oh, we better fix that. So brain sends a signal back to the body, and where it was high, there you start to sweat. And your sweat releases heat, cools you off, brings your temperature back down, and it reaches that level again. So that's a way that temperature is a homeostatic mechanism that process is. And it's also an example of a negative feedback loop. And a negative feedback loop is basically a way of how the body works that where it counteracts whatever is happening. So in the example of your temperature, the heat was too high in your body, and it counteracted it by reducing the heat and adding the cool. And I have actually a diagram that I drew to show this for this. So negative feedback, first there's a negative signal, and your body fixes it by adding a solution that balances it out. So this is like a weight balancing thing. So balances it out. So that's a great way to look at that. So there's also positive feedback, but we'll talk about that in a second. First, I want to address another example of a homeostatic mechanism that takes place in the body, and that is blood sugar. So you eat a meal, and your blood sugar before you eat a meal is here. Then you eat a meal and it goes up. So it's high again. And the signals in your body, the sensors, they see that and they say, oh, blood sugar is too high. Send the signal off to where it needs to go to be fixed. And in this example, it's an organ called the pancreas. And that organ, the pancreas, sends out a signal and sends out chemicals that actually take that sugar level, bring it back down to a regular level. So the same sort of process as temperature, where it was normal, something caused it to be abnormal, and then the body responded and brought it back to the healthy level again. And that's, again, an example of a negative feedback loop. So there's also what's called a positive feedback loop. And this is, instead of it being a negative feedback loop of being sort of a balancing act, the positive feedback loop is where the body adds more to the problem to fix the problem. So it's a little bit more complicated, but a good example of this is a fever. So you get a fever, and your body doesn't automatically fix that fever. Your body actually makes the fever worse before it eventually will come back down and fix. But the way your body fixes the fever is by adding to the fever, so it'll come back down. And I have a picture of this one as well. So again, negative signal happens, but instead of balancing it out, which is what would have happened over here in negative feedback, it's here, and it's just a bunch of additions to the negative signal. So that's kind of a basic example of how the positive feedback works. And the last thing about this is that your body mainly uses negative feedback, and I would guess, my best guess for why that happens is because a lot of the processes in the body, if you were to add more to it, it would be worse. Like if it was blood sugar and it was high, and then your body added more sugar, that would not fix the problem. There would be no way for the body to fix that by adding more. It has to be sort of the balancing back to a normal level. It can't be adding more. So that would be my best guess, but I'm not 100% sure. I hope to learn that in the future. So to reiterate, we've talked about homeostatic mechanisms, what they do in the body and why, some examples of temperature and blood sugar, and negative and positive feedback, where negative is the balancing act and positive is adding more to one side to fix the problem. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and hope you have a great week.